Good evening and welcome. We begin today's news wrap and update with the U.S. presidential election, which is less than 12 hours away. The election will take place tomorrow across the U.S. Early voting already closed. It began earlier last month and it closed across the country yesterday. Both nominee from both parties, both Democrats and Republican, representing the Democrat is the Vice President Kamala Harris, and representing the Republican is the former President Donald Trump, are both on the ground traveling across battleground as well as swing states, making their last speeches to the American voters. The Democrat Party are not leaving anything to chance in this election and supporting, including the President Biden as well as First Lady Dr. Jill Biden, also spent the weekend campaigning in support of the Vice President. The former President Barack Obama as well as former First Lady Michelle Obama also were on the ground in Georgia, in Pennsylvania. The First Lady Dr. Jill Biden was in North Carolina today, and over the weekend she's been traveling across the U.S. Making in support campaigning for the Vice President Kamala Harris also spent the weekend traveling across swing states. She was in Michigan yesterday as well as in North Carolina and in Michigan, and today she is in Pennsylvania. Earlier she began at rally in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and she will travel to Harrington as well as in Philadelphia, capping up later on tonight in Philadelphia. Tomorrow she will be in Washington D.C. tomorrow, and we gather at Howard University, which is alumni university, where she will gather tomorrow with supporters and American voters as well as other leaders from the Democratic Party will also be there. For the Republican candidates, the former president's supporters will gather in Florida in support to watch the results. As the result comes in, we are expecting results to come in at the end of tomorrow, but most likely there won't be a call for the election until either on Wednesday or probably at the end of the week. It has been a very, very contentious election. As we know, it started between President Biden, who is the incompetent president right now, and the former President Donald Trump, and in July President Biden stepped aside and pass the torch to, in an historic moment, deliver remarks to American and say is passing the torch to the next generation to move the country forward. And he continued to support, and he nominated Vice President Kamala Harris, and he continued to support her in various ways, including through campaign. A lot of issues are on the line. Democracy is on the line. Freedom is on the line. As we know, during the former Donald Trump, that elected justice into the Supreme Court, and the Roe v. Wade was overturned, that significantly affect a lot of women, and those issues are very close. In fact, over the weekend, this past weekend, there was a march in Washington D.C. by women that was saying we want our right back and we're not going back. And in support that we have seen across the U.S., women are turning out as well as youth in support of the Vice President, and in support of making sure that the freedom that women have enjoyed for over 50 years we continue to be in place, even though in some states it has been reversed. And the Vice President Kamala Harris said if she is elected, that she will make sure that she will sign that bill when Congress passed the law and restoring the law for women right to protect their body and to seek abortion when they need. We will continue tomorrow. We expect that we will be on the ground canvassing around Washington DC, as well as traveling to other regions in New York or Pennsylvania to talk to voters regarding some of the issues that are important to them. We've already discussed this with some voters during the past couple of weeks, and top issue for them are economic, immigration, as well as protecting democracy and protecting women's freedom. We expect the whole world is watching this election. It will have significant global impact, as leaders said during the IMF World Bank's annual meeting that just took place a few weeks ago last month, that the whole world, the significant impact that this will have on climate financing, on debt reform, as many countries in developing world, in emerging economic, significantly in Africa, continue to seek assistance for climate financing to deal with some of the devastating impact that their country have experienced, from drought to flood. And we're seeing that as well in the US. Earlier in October, we saw the devastating impact of Hurricane Helene as well as Hurricane Milton. During the former President Trump term, it took American out of the Climate Alliance, and when President Biden came on board, that was one of the first things that he signed, returning America. So there will be a significant, the world is watching, especially this week. We saw the flood that happened in Spain, where more than 200 people lost their life. And the outcry from the public regarding this. So we will be bringing you updates throughout tomorrow and even tonight on this consequential as well as historic election. If the vice president is elected tomorrow, she will be the first black female Asian woman to lead America. We have seen other candidates, including during 2016, the Democratic nominated the former Secretary and the former First Lady Hillary Clinton to represent the party, but she lost during the election, even though she lost in the electoral vote to the former President Donald Trump, who was then the first time running for presidency. So this time around, all leaders, Democratic leaders, are not leaving any stone unturned. They are traveling across battleground states, pitching until the last minute. As I said, the vice president will be in Pennsylvania today until around after midnight, pitching to American voters and for them to the reason why they should vote for her. As she said, she's not taking anything for granted, and just telling a story that regarding what she intends regarding our economic policy, how she planned to uplift America, continue to build on the economic progress that she and President Biden have already made, but also come up with her own agenda. As we've reported, she planned to help regarding housing, especially to build on that, and she planned to support new parents by providing $6,000 to new parents to support them, as well as all new homeowner by providing $25,000 to homeowner, as well as cutting red tape that we improve housing affordability, housing development. So many people across the country are experiencing difficulty, and she also plans to tackle some of the economic difficulty, including price gouging. And we've reported on all of this, and those are just a reminder. And the former President Donald Trump also, in his remarks, said he plans to cut taxes for corporates, as well as increased tariff for any products, 100% tariff for any products that are coming from overseas. Of course, analysts have said this will have significant negative impact on because consumer will end up paying a lot more for the product that they already enjoy. Again, those are just some of the issue. Immigration also is a major issue for most of America, and both candidates have different way of dealing with those issues. We've reported, and we will bring you additional more updates on that tomorrow. Now, moving to news from today. Today, President Biden, as I said earlier, returned to the White House after spending the weekend in Delaware and in Pennsylvania, Scranton, Pennsylvania. On Saturday, he talked to union members regarding how his administration have delivered for the American workers and American union, and continue to support union. And in Scranton, he spent time talking to voters regarding at a Harris Watts campaign rally. And today he returned to the White House. He is expected to stay at the White House tomorrow. We don't know whether he did not talk to the press when he arrived. He just waved to us and walked into the Oval Office. And I've been in Oval Office today talking to leaders across the world, as well as continue to work on delivery for the American people. We bring you updates tomorrow morning on some of any additional detail. And now moving to Africa right now. Botswana new president Duma Boka was sworn in as the 6th president in a simple ceremony at the High Court in Botswana by a Chief Justice of the office on Saturday. As we reported on Friday, that the former president Masisi, who was the incumbent, conceded the defeat on Friday and called his opposition leader that was elected from President Duma Boka to congratulate him. And today he handed over power, officially handed over power and the residents to the new president, the 6th president of Botswana. As we reported, it was one of the most simple, powerful, smooth transition. There was no noise, as we know, like when it comes to election regarding Africa, there's always this anxiety and this concern, but this was a very peaceful, democratic, smooth election and transition of power. And we will continue to follow development in that country, and we continue to bring it to you. The new president promised made a lot of promise to the Botswana people, and we will keep an eye on how he's working to turn the economic around and deliver for the Botswana people. And now, the U.S. Assistant Secretary of State for African Affairs, Molly Phipps, traveled to Senegal. She arrived in Senegal on Sunday to attend the Dakar Business, and today she met with leaders from the American Chambers of Commerce in Senegal to talk about how the U.S. government can continue to support American businesses that are looking to open office or open businesses, do business in Senegal, as well as expand to Senegal. We will continue to follow our travel and bring you additional updates. And speaking of the U.S. government, as part of, we've reported on this, the Biden-Harris administration have really gone in on pushing in a positive way of diving in and expanding collaboration, partnership, business and trade in every way with the African continent. Over $63 billion investment in the past 2 years alone have gone from U.S. private sector as well as the U.S. public sector into across the African continent. So this is part of that, of continued collaboration. The U.S., when it comes to Africa, is more, and regarding Congress, there is collaboration, is a bipartisan effort, and we expect this to continue whoever it is that is in office in this White House. But there might be significant shift in policy or a reduction in some of the fund that are going to Africa. But until we know who is in the office, we can't really say very much about it. We can speculate, but there isn't much that we can say. But there's always been continuous. We saw that during the Bush administration. President Bush was the one that established the PEPFAR program to support ending HIV and AIDS across the African continent. And the Prosper Africa, which the Biden-Harris administration built upon, continues. So we have a GOHA that continued from which was established under President Bill Clinton. So there has been a continuation of some of the initiative, the government initiative, trading with Africa, and we expect this to continue. But again, as I mentioned, there might be significant shift in certain aid, and until we know who is in the office, we can speculate, but we are going to wait until whoever is in office and come up with their policy. But we know that Vice President Kamala Harris have continued to support Africa. She traveled to the continent, traveled across 3 countries across the continent, and Africa was enthusiastic, welcoming her, supporting her. We even when Africans travel, we interview some young Africa that are part of the yearly program that traveled there, and they said they are inspired by her achievements, her position, and her value, and they are also in support of us. So whoever is in office, we will be following that and bringing our readers both in the US and on the continent and around the world additional information on all of those things. Back to what I was saying earlier, the US government opened the first commercial service office in Lusaka, Zambia, that we maximize opportunity for US business looking to enter into the Zambia market. We reported again last month or in September how US government continued to support. It was last month when the MCC CEO Alice Albright traveled to Zambia, where she announcst over $400 million investments in agriculture production for Zambia, small businesses and businesses in Zambia. So this we encourage American businesses that are looking to enter into Zambia to have more maximize opportunity in that country. Now, moving to another country, Nigeria. The UK foreign minister, we reported on this as well, travel to the continent, is in Nigeria and is meeting with Nigerian leaders. He traveled to Lagos as well as traveled to Abuja, where he met the foreign minister, the Nigerian foreign minister, and he also traveled to Lagos where he met the governor of Lagos State. Lagos is a commercial hub. Used to be the capital of Nigeria. The capital is now Abuja. So both commercial hub is meeting with leaders there. This, in fact, as we said, it was in Kenya previously, where he met with Kenya leaders and the Kenya foreign minister to discuss bilateral trade and cooperation partnership with the UK and the Africa, very Kenya, and now is in Nigeria. And moving to another country, the IMF managing director Kristalina Georgieva is in Egypt. She's traveled to Egypt and to meet with leaders in that country. Regarding, as we've reported, there has been a significant impact due to the crisis that is ongoing in the Middle East on the Egyptian economic, and they are seeking assistance from the IMF. And the managing director travel, she is on the ground in Egypt, meeting with, she met with the president of Egypt, President Al-Sisi, and she will be meeting with other as well as the finance minister and other leaders in that country as well. And speaking of the IMF, my voice again, I will continue, and hopefully you guys can continue to hear me. The IMF approved 253 million ECF loan for Syria loan, and they praised the economic reform that the country has taken for the stability, reducing poverty, as well as inclusive growth in that country. And the finance minister of Sierra Leone reaffirmed commitment to transparency. We reported on this that the Sierra Leone president, Julius Bell, was in the US last week. Last month she met with the IMF managing director, and it was just last week in Iowa, attending the World Food Prize Foundation Norma Burger International Dialogue, where he participated with other African Development Bank President Akinwumi Adesina, as well as Tanzania President were also present, and the World Bank President Tajid Banker were all present at that event. And the Sierra Leone President also met with the U.S. government, USA leaders from the senior officials from the USAID to talk about partnership regarding agriculture and other trade between the two countries. So that concludes our updates for the African continent. Now, lastly, Haiti. The CARICOM, head of the Transnational Presidential Council, met with the Prime Minister of Haiti on Friday for updates on coordination between the interim government and the TPC, the Transitional Presidential Council. So we know that Haiti, Kenya is helping that country with the leading the UN peacekeeping in that country, with so many crises going on around the world. Often we don't hear about this country. We hear about the Middle East and war in Ukraine. Haiti is significant to our audience in the African continent, as well as to our audience in the U.S. And we continue to follow. We will continue to follow these developments as the U.S. and as well as other leaders from the CARICOM and Africa, from Kenya, from Benin, continue to support this country to bring an end to the crisis in that country and bring stability and good governance to this country. So this concludes our news wrap and update for November 4th. And tomorrow we will be bringing you live story at various locations where we're covering the election, and we will see you tomorrow. Again, if you have not voted, if you did not vote, had the opportunity to vote during the early election, you still have more time. Make time tomorrow. This is a consequential election for everyone in the U.S. Freedom and democracy are on the line. It's also a consequential election for foreign affairs. Whatever, if we think that in the U.S. that what goes on in other countries does not affect us, we are kidding ourselves, because the world is so interconnected right now that if anything happens, whether it's pandemic as we saw during the pandemic of the 2020, 2021, or it's other disasters, we just reported today the flood in Spain. We have significant economic impact, business impact. American businesses that are doing businesses, their family that have family deals. We have impact on America, whether it's American individual or American economic. It might have impact on the supply chain. So we are not living in isolation. So it is important to consider all of these things and pick the right leader that we think that we do the right job, that we continue to push America forward. We cannot go back to the way things were 50 years ago. 50 years ago, the technology that we have, whether it's iPad, iPhone, telephone, fax machine, we don't even use fax machine or answering machine anymore. So the world is moving forward, and we have to continue to move forward, but at the same time keep our value, keep our decency, respect for one each other, respecting, taking care of each other, taking care of our neighbor, being a good Samaritan, and all of those values that have put America at the top of the world as leader of the world. We have to continue to retain those value. So let's keep all of those things in mind as we go to the poll tomorrow. If you have not already voted, please make time, your lunch time, whatever time. Poll open very early and it closes very late. Make time to vote. I will see you tomorrow throughout the day. Have a good evening, and again, thank you very much for watching. I'm Kemi Oshikoya.